What is going on, you beautiful bastards? I'm Brandon Sylvia. This is my YouTube channel. Consider subscribing if you are new. Alright, so we are going to dive into the Nintendo Direct and the PlayStation State of Play that happened today. Both of them damn solid. A lot of good stuff to talk about here. A lot of new reveals and shit that I just was not expecting at all. So I'm excited to dive into this and kind of break down the two shows for today. I do want to say we're going to dive into the Nintendo Direct first, but before we dive into it, I don't cover a lot of Nintendo here for a reason. I'm not a hardcore Nintendo guy. I am just now getting a little bit more familiar with the ecosystem, trying to dive into some of the first party games, but Nintendo just historically hasn't been something that appeals to me all that much. But I am trying to get into it a little bit at a time here. So if I go over this direct and I kind of glaze over a game that you're super excited for, it's probably because I just don't have a ton of information or an in-depth informed opinion to add to the conversation. So I don't want to just kind of talk out of my ass about something that I'm not all that familiar with. But nonetheless, there was still a ton here at this Nintendo Direct that got me really hyped. And it was just the showcase in general, or the presentation in general, was just very well done. And then these State of Plays and Directs are hitting it out of the park lately. Just gameplay after gameplay, quick, to the point, snappy. I love this. And shit like, don't mean to throw shade at the Ubisoft Forward, but golly, that Ubisoft Forward and a couple other events can really learn a thing or two from just getting straight to the point. I really appreciate, both of these, the Direct and the State of Play for not wasting our time at all. So let's go ahead and dive into this thing. Obviously, the first thing we're going to talk about is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I know so many people after playing Breath of the Wild were desperately waiting, for more information on the sequel, the follow-up, what was going to be next for Zelda. And yeah, now we have a release date for May 12th, 2023 for Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm down for this. There was some weird gameplay here, like you're flying around and stuff. Like, it looked pretty sick. We didn't get a ton to really go off of here, but we got a name, we got a release date. I think that's more than a lot of people expected. And I don't love the May 12th release date. You know what I mean? I feel like those 8-month out release dates can tend to, be pushed to a holiday sort of launching around the holidays. But I don't know. Regardless, even if it gets pushed to holiday 2023, still nice to know that it's on the horizon and the hardcore fans for Zelda can finally have a new game to jump into. And I think I'm going to be jumping into this as well. I've never played a Zelda game before in my life. I don't think I'm going to go back and play through Breath of the Wild 1 before diving in to Tears of the Kingdom, but I do want to play this, and I do kind of, especially if it's going to get that same kind of critical acclaim and then just fanfare across the board, I would like to see what all the hype is about. So I'm actually personally pretty excited for this one as well. And then we have Fire Emblem Engage, and once again, not my cup of tea, but no doubt very nice visuals, just really well animated, and looks like some solid turn-based tactical combat. And it is launching on January 20th, 2023. So once again, I know fans are going to be pumped for that. But something I am damn excited about, and this is a game I've already played, but I am so excited for Switch owners to get their hands on It Takes Two, and that is going to be dropping on November 4th. And I just think that this is the perfect platform for It Takes Two. I just think that the Switch lends itself so well to couch co-op, really better than any other platform, and I think this should sell exceptionally well on the Switch. It's a game that anybody of any age can really play it. There's of course like some marital themes and struggles about separation and shit like that, but in terms of the actual gameplay experience, it's one of the more unique games you'll ever play. And I do think everybody needs to at least check this out, even if you only jump into it for a little bit, just to see how the levels are constantly switching and shit. Very, very brilliant game. It won Game of the Year last year, and I could not argue that at all. Next up, Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. I just love seeing this. Seeing these remasters, really, it gives me hope that if we're getting another remaster here with Fatal Frame, that's making me think that the first one did pretty well, Maiden of Blackwater or whatever. So my hope here is, usually when you see developers, publishers focusing on remastering titles, they're doing that to see if there's enough buzz still left with that franchise, and then they get to work on the next big entry for the franchise. And I would love to see, a fully funded next big entry in the Fatal Frame franchise. And that would kind of be, with all the rumor of Silent Hill coming back, we have Alone in the Dark coming back, with Dead Space is getting a remake, Resident Evil 4, we have new stuff on the horizon like the Callisto Protocol and Slitterheads, and it's just such a revitalization period for survival horror. And it's like Fatal Frame is one of the last ones out there that just needs to get brought back. So I really hope that Fatal Frame gets brought back, man. Now on into Octopath Traveler 2. This, I never really, I saw the first game, I thought it looked cool, but holy shit, this trailer for Octopath Traveler 2 was something else. The visuals here were just absolutely stunning. And just the world building and the visual presentation, just the different settings in this game and how purposefully designed it looked. I don't know. I think I might dive into this. Just, the whole idea of playing as the 8 different characters with a story that's kind of bobbing and weaving between all 8 of them. Yeah, that looks sick as hell. And that's actually launching early next year, February 2023. So, yeah, I think I might be diving into... there's a couple things here that are piquing my curiosity, and might be diving into a couple brand new franchises for the first time with Zelda and Octopath Traveler 2. I know people are like, how the hell have you not played a Zelda game? I've never really owned a Nintendo console for myself. I've been a PlayStation guy growing up throughout my whole life. So this is kind of like the Switch, the first console, the first Nintendo console I bought, and I can kind of dive into these games a little bit more. So it's cool to get to experience a lot of this for the first time. So yeah, I'm really definitely looking forward to diving into the new Zelda game, but probably even, going to dive into that Octopath Traveler 2. Looks sick. Next up, let's talk about those Nintendo 64 games that we are going to be getting for Switch Online. You're getting GoldenEye. Just I can't believe that GoldenEye was just kind of subtly dropped here. I know they played out the whole, you're getting Excite Bike, you're 64, you're getting Mario Party 1, 2, and 3, you're getting Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, and Pilot Wings and all this shit. And then they, tease it a little bit and then drop GoldenEye as well, which, kudos to them. That's a good way of revealing, hey, we're going to be getting GoldenEye. But yeah, that's just dope, man. You're getting local and online multiplayer. I know there's a lot of controversy right now with Xbox's version of GoldenEye not getting online multiplayer, which I do think is kind of bizarre with, Nintendo notoriously having one of the worst, just overall online functionality out of all 3 of the consoles. So weird that Xbox's version isn't going to get any sort of online play, but yeah, it's just sick. I like the weird games getting thrown in here. The Excite Bike 64 and Pilot Wings, and that just gives me hope. And I know it's probably never going to happen, but I would kill to see WWF No Mercy on that Nintendo online program at some point, because for sure I understand that the licensing and all that shit would be nearly impossible to pull off, but I don't know, man. I'm going to hold out hope. I know it'll never happen, but I'm still going to hold out hope. I would love to see that be available to play on some kind of modern system. So Pikmin fans are rejoicing today as we got an announcement for a new Pikmin game. It's been a decade that Pikmin fans have been waiting for a new release, and they finally got it. Nothing really here, just a quick little reveal trailer. It got announced, it's saying it's going to be coming in 2023. Who knows? There's no real date attached to it. It just says 2023. So you're probably looking at 2024 for Pikmin 4 with, nothing really being there. Just go ahead and set your expectations for like holiday 2023 or 2024. But still, waited a decade. All you Pikmin fans, you can wait another year on top of that. So it's just cool to know that those fans are being catered to a little bit here. Now, the next game is definitely the one out of everything we've talked about so far that I am the most excited for. This trailer didn't do anything to put my excitement over the top, but man, I'm so there for Bayonetta 3. And I'm not saying that this trailer didn't do anything in the sense that it reversed my excitement or hurt my excitement in any sort of way. I think there actually was cool shit like that opening where the world kind of just looked a lot bigger than I expected, and like just being able to seamlessly travel into the interior of like these big ass buildings where Bayonetta just walks into a building and it's like no load time, seamless transition. I was like, oh wow, okay, that's fairly impressive. I'm not saying it's not groundbreaking, but seeing that on the Switch, these big ass worlds and stuff, I was like, dope, okay, hell yeah. And then it showed off the combat with Viola, and this we've seen a little bit of her combat before, but this was like the most in-depth, or at least the most in-depth of her combat that I've saw, and she kind of appears to be like more of a swordsman, and she's just swiftly moving around, hacking and slashing, and then summoning this big ass cat demon creature into battle, and then the combat just looks really fun with her. Like she has to block at the right time to get into the witch time mode, and so it's giving you a slight variation there between her and Bayonetta. So you're getting a slightly different dynamic with how those two characters control in combat. And then I remember a trailer a while back where it showed her with like a grapple gun and shit. So that just looks across the board really solid. Platinum hasn't failed with Bayonetta yet, so I am hoping that they don't fail with Bayonetta 3, and I don't think that they will. All right, on in to Resident Evil Village, coming to the Switch via the cloud streaming capabilities, and not the way that people would want to play Resident Evil Village. If you have any other alternative option to play Resident Evil Village, definitely pursue those routes. But hey, I know there's a lot of people out there with a Switch. I mean, things upwards of 100 million units sold, so there's a lot of people that only have a Switch. And if you are a Resident Evil fan and you haven't been able to play Village, definitely check it out, give it a go. It's such a fantastic game. And you're also getting RE7, RE2, and 3 coming to the cloud. And I guess that's kind of all you can expect with the Switch at this point. I'm hoping that maybe the next 2 years or so that some kind of new, more powerful Switch is available. That way some of these third-party games can get there in their intended form, I guess, and you can just buy the games digitally or pick up an actual physical copy where you can actually play the full game without having to do it through any sort of cloud technology. But yeah, Resident Evil 7 coming, I guess technically Resident Evil 7, and Resident Evil 8 and RE2 and 3 remake all coming to the Switch through the cloud. Sifu is also coming to the Switch on November 8th. And once again, I don't know if this is how I would want to play Sifu, as it's just a game that you don't really ever want any sort of frame rate dropping or any sort of pop in or any moment that's going to take you out of that combat and out of that focus that you're having to maintain through playing that game. It's a very intense experience that you need all of your focus like dedicated to that screen to get through one level to the next. It's a really, really hard game, and I don't know if I would want to play that on the Switch, which I mean, there is the easy version now. So if you wanted to just like play Sifu handheld and play through it on the easy mode and just kind of get the experience and see the different levels and see the story that way, I could actually see that being pretty cool. But I'm not sure I'd want to play the normal mode on the Switch. You need I would think that you might need a PC or a more powerful console to make sure that your frame rate and shit is staying at a consistent clip, because all that stuff really matters a lot in a game that's as challenging as Sifu. And last thing I want to talk about here at the Direct today was Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. And Final Fantasy VII, the remake, was the first time I ever played a Final Fantasy VII or played a Final Fantasy game at all. And I loved FF7, the remake. Absolutely loved it. Was so sold on the combat. Was really sold on the characters and the story, and Cloud and Sephiroth and all these characters. I was like, damn, this is a lot cooler than I thought. I always thought it was more cliche kind of anime vibes, but there's a decent story there with Shinra and kind of the harm they're doing to the climate to enrich the company, and all that shit was pretty solid and a little bit more substantial or significant in the storytelling than I would have ever imagined. So I'm there for Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, just based off the combat alone. If I'm being honest, I'm there. I know that this isn't going to be like of that same level of production value and the character moments and the cinematics. I don't think that Crisis Core is going to hit that level that Final Fantasy VII the remake did, but nonetheless, I want to check this out, and it's going to be dropping on December 13th of this year. So we finally know that it will be releasing this year. When they were saying like holiday, or they were saying winter or whatever, initially was kind of the launch window, and now we know for a fact, or not for a fact, anything can get delayed, but you would expect that this is probably going to drop December 13th. So I'm there. And I think I forgot to mention the release date for Resident Evil Village and Bayonetta 3. Those are both dropping October 28th. So yeah, that's the Nintendo Direct in a quick sort of recap there. I guess not all that quick, but yeah, those were the games at Nintendo Direct that really stood out to me. I think the showcase was really solid. Like, there's a lot there that, especially talking about from the perspective of somebody who doesn't really get into these style of games all that often, somebody who's not typically a Nintendo fan, but they are growing on me, and Nintendo is definitely growing on me. But even for somebody like me, like this showcase was not bad at all. It definitely one that you can sit through and find something to enjoy, no matter who you are or like what type of game you enjoy playing, and that's always a good sign with these style of showcases. So yeah, I did not have a bad time watching this at all. All right, and next up, let's dive into this PlayStation State of Play. This shit was really good. Like, really, really good. Only 25 minutes, however long it was short, quick, very snappy, and full of big reveals of games that like I had no idea about. I think a lot of these were revealed for the first time, and so, dude, the real good shit here. Just for the games that I personally really enjoy, this showcase or this State of Play was full of stuff that's really interesting to me personally. So, and speaking of showcases, are we not going to get a full PlayStation showcase this year? Like, we got one, I believe, I think the last one was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know. I guess we're not getting a showcase this year unless we get one late in the year, which would be kind of bizarre, especially considering the game that closed out the State of Play today. But regardless, let's go ahead and dive into this State of Play for September. And The first thing that was shown off here was Tekken 8, which got a very, 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 very brief glimpse of gameplay, which I guess would technically be the gameplay reveal, if I'm not mistaken, for Tekken 8. And visually, it looks impressive enough. There wasn't a lot there to chew on. It just kind of, a quick little CGI trailer with a little glimpse of gameplay. But visually, not bad at all. We had a couple games announced for PSVR 2. And the first one is a new Star Wars game that's dropping in 2023 called Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. And it looks like a sort of action-adventure shooter title where you're with C-3PO and R2-D2, and a real nice get for PSVR. Those titles, like you remember with the PSVR 1, where you had like the Iron Man game and the Batman game, like those titles are great for VR systems to just get people on board immediately because of their love for those characters or for those worlds that they know from film and from television and shit like that. So I do understand the appeal there. For me, there's nothing with VR that I've seen yet other than like Half-Life Alyx that would make me immediately buy in day one to any sort of PSVR, VR headset or system. I need a few more experiences like Half-Life Alyx to be available day one or available at some point before I make the full plunge into VR. The Horizon game has the potential, I think, of being that style of experience that's like, okay, I have to get a VR headset to be able to play this, but I'm still not 100% sold on that. I would like to see just more of the software of what we're going to get, because I'm still very skeptical of... I'm honestly just kind of skeptical of VR in general. I think there's some interesting shit with AR, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I could not, I could just be totally missing the future and not seeing VR for what it is, but I'm still not really sold on it at all. I need to see something huge, some huge breakthrough with the gameplay in VR to make me spend that type of money on a headset. But yeah, you're also getting a game called Demio, I believe, which is coming to PSVR 2, and it looks like this kind of tabletop board game, but you're actually in the game through VR, I'm guessing. And then, yeah, once again, both of these games look okay, but I would be hard-pressed to believe that either of these are just really selling someone on a whatever $600, $500 headset. It would be hard for me to see that unless you're just the biggest of Star Wars fans, and any kind of Star Wars experience that's out there, you're going to pay whatever amount of money to go and see. And then we had a game pop up. I believe it's Like a Dragon Ishin, or if it's Ishin Like a Dragon, you can correct me. But this is coming to us from RGG, the team behind Yakuza and Judgment, and this looks very, very similar with that kind of third-person beat-em-up flair, but more focused on weapon usage. And I love the look of this game. A little bit more gritty, having some guns and shit thrown in there in this Yakuza style experience. It looks a lot like Yakuza. I'm assuming it's running on the same engine as Judgment and stuff, and some of the later Yakuza games. But I'm absolutely down for this. This was initially released only in Japan, I believe, and it's being rebuilt from the ground up to a brand new audience, and it's going to be dropping February 2023, and then I'm very likely going to be there day one, just based off of how much I love Judgment and Lost Judgment. Lost Judgment, my favorite game of 2021. The first Judgment, I think my second favorite game of 2019. I just love those worlds. I still need to go back and dive into all the Yakuza games, but I kind of like just having these sort of side experiences where I don't have any sort of baggage attached to it at all, and you can just jump in wherever and get the experience that you're looking for. And this seems to be its own standalone story, if I'm not mistaken, so that's even more appealing to me with this Ishin or Like a Dragon Ishin game. And then we had a look at Hogwarts Legacy. This, I think, was the little trailer for the quest that's exclusive to PlayStation 5, and it had a nice little spooky touch to this trailer. And this is the type of stuff that I need to see to pull me into this game and to really convince me to be there day one picking this up. You got to get me into the story, get me into the characters, get me into the atmosphere, because I think a lot of what has been shown for Hogwarts Legacy so far has been showing Harry Potter fans that this is the Harry Potter game for you. All of you starved Harry Potter fans who have been wanting a game just like this, you're finally going to get it, and that's great. But for people like me who don't really care about Harry Potter one way or the other, and we just like video games, you got to figure out some way to appeal to that audience as well. Because I'm not saying that I think just appealing to Harry Potter fans alone would be enough to make this game a huge success. But appealing to a broader audience, brings everybody in together. And I think that should always be sort of the main focus, is when you're spending this amount of money on developing a game, hundreds of millions of dollars, you got to make that money back. So you need to cast as wide a net as possible. And these are the type of trailers that I need to see to make me care about this stuff a little bit more and get invested in, like, oh, okay, this has got a nice little tone to it. This atmosphere is sort of weird and strange, and I'm curious to see more on this. So this was one of the better trailers for Hogwarts Legacy that I've saw so far. The first trailer, the initial reveal trailer, was absolutely fantastic, but after that, it's just been kind of decreasing my hype more and more for Hogwarts Legacy, and this built it back up a little bit. So this was a real good trailer. And then we had Pacific Drive, and I have no idea what the fuck Pacific Drive is, but I think I might be down. It appears that you're like driving this vehicle with a bunch of supernatural or at the very least unnatural disasters taking place around you, like kind of weather hazards maybe, and you're trying to avoid wrecking this car. I could be way off on my assessment for this game, but based off the trailer, that's kind of what I picked up and think that the game is going to be centered around. It almost feels like the enemy in the game is going to be the climate and trying to stay safe on the road. Like I said, I could be way off there, but that's somewhat of the vibe that the trailer gave off, or at least gave off to me. It seemed a lot based around almost puzzle solving while driving the vehicle and trying to stay safe. And it seemed like you may have been seeking out some, like you're tuning into the radio and they're like broadcasting where this where this disaster is taking place, and you might be trying to go towards that, almost as like a weather chaser type person, the people that like chase the tornadoes and shit. I have no idea, but it looked compelling enough just with the creepy tone and aesthetic of it. I was like, okay, I'll keep my eye on Pacific Drive there. And then we had Sin Duality, and this looked to be like it was really giving me some Horizon meets Mech Warrior kind of vibes with the gameplay. You were in this what appeared to be open world environment, and you were hunting, or maybe these dinosaur-esque animals were hunting you. And you're in this mech suit, and it also gave off some free to play or some competitive online vibes as well, with just how the gameplay looked and how the movement looked. So I'll be curious to see if that's what the game ends up being. But it also had like cinematics and some sort of focus on a narrative and a story. So The gameplay looked good, and then the characters looked interesting, and then obviously the world is really compelling to me, and just that general idea of having this mech style armor and going out into almost a Horizon gameplay loop with it. That is initially just incredibly appealing to me, but it's going to depend on how much of the game is that, or is it going to be more geared towards a competitive online or free to play style of experience, or live service style of experience. But if it is more story based, then this looks really, really interesting, just with the weird world and everything. And we also finally got another look at Project Eve, which is now under a new name of Stellar Blade, and it's also now a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which it has been featured predominantly at PlayStation shows for a little while now. Like, I believe it got revealed at a showcase, and it seems that Sony has definitely wanted to be involved with Project Eve or Stellar Blade for a little while. So yeah, they officially have locked it down to being a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and yeah, the game looks fucking great. It pretty much is, I don't want to say a Bayonetta ripoff, but it looks very, very similar to Bayonetta, just with incredible, incredible visuals. The production value looks really high. Good focus on narrative, good focus on cinematics, and it just seems to be blending a lot of those different beats together. Real, real high production value with a real focus on a good story, and also keeping that fast, frenetic Bayonetta hack and slash character action game, just keeping all of that intact while trying to hit those other beats while giving you good cinematics, high production value, solid story. Like, if it can nail all those things that it's trying to nail, and this was the first time with the Project Eve that, or Jesus Christ, Stellar, what the hell is the name of it, friggin' Stellar Blade. This is the first time that we've saw a little bit more of an in-depth look at the story, and what was shown off here definitely piqued my interest. So yeah, Project Eve, still no release date on it, but I'm glad we finally got to see a little bit more on the game. And we got another action game that is going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5, which is Rise of the Ronin. And this is coming from Team Ninja, who you'll know from Ninja Gaiden and the Neo games. And this one with Rise of Ronin looks to be a lot more in the vein of a Ghost of Tsushima inspired title. But the coolest thing that was shown off in this trailer is this like wingsuit that your character is using. And I'm assuming that you can kind of fly around the world with this wingsuit. And similar, like we were talking about earlier with the Like a Dragon, Ishin Like a Dragon, I believe is the name. You had firearms in that, and in this Rise of the Ronin game, you have firearms as well. So that's a nice little twist, to that Ghost of Tsushima style of gameplay loop, or to the Neo style of gameplay loop, to throw in some firearms here and there. I like just the idea of the diversity of combat that could be achieved by using these different methods of combat in the gameplay loop. So yeah, this is for sure one of the games throughout the entire day in general that stood out the most to me. That this looked just absolutely fucking exceptional. I'll be there checking this out day one without a doubt. And I believe this was the first time this game was revealed. I love that they gave us a real look at what the game is going to be, and just let us make up our mind on if this is going to be something we're into or not. From the gate, you announce the game, you show us what it is, and you let the player go, yeah, that's for me, or no, I think I'll pass on that. I love that. And for me, this is for sure going to be something I check out. But to close the show off, of course, we have a game coming in a couple months that millions and millions and millions of people are very excited for, and that is God of War Ragnarok. And I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. God of War Ragnarok, up until this point, has been I I'm really excited for it, but it hasn't pushed me over the top, like really pushed me over the top. I've always liked the God of War games, but there hasn't been a lot with the trailers we've seen so far that just totally sold me. But this trailer absolutely totally sold me. And it one thing and one thing alone on this trailer that sold me was the location diversity. I want to go to all these different locations, explore these different worlds, see what the hell is going on. What is that moment where Atreus shoots the arrow at the sun and it seems like there's this time warp? Like, what is that? I have to see what all these different things are. The combat I know is going to be incredible. The Leviathan axe, I know that the weapons are going to be great. The general moment to moment gameplay is going to be exceptional. But I knew that about the first game. So for me, the big thing that I needed to be sold on was like, where are we going to be going? What are we going to be doing that's different from the first game? Because I do like the story and I want to see how the story wraps up. And I'm a big story guy, but if I'm being honest, like I need those moments in between to really stand out. And even with like in this trailer, there were some moments where you were like fleeing from battle or fleeing from something. You were running away and I don't know how much gameplay is going to be involved in that, but those look like some big ass set pieces, and then the cool moments seem to be happening there as well. So like this was the trailer that made me go, oh, I wonder how that's going to play out in game. I wonder what we're going to be doing in gameplay at this moment or that moment. So this is definitely the trailer, the best trailer that God of War Ragnarok has had so far by a long shot, in my opinion. And this totally sold me on picking up Ragnarok, which I was already going to pick it up. Like I said, I loved the first game. I do want to see the story wrap up, and I already knew the gameplay was going to be great. But this is the trailer that made me like really just so excited to dive into Ragnarok. So yeah, guys, a lot of good shit announced today. Curious to hear, what is your game of the day? Your favorite game, or the game you're most anticipating that was revealed today? I would have to say, I think that mine would be, I'm looking through the state of play and the direct. I think I would have to go with Rise of the Ronin for my most anticipated game out of anything revealed today. God of War close off the back of that trailer, but I think Rise of the Ronin might take it. I just, those damn Ghost of Tsushima inspired worlds and shit are so goddamn appealing to me, and then I'm curious just what Team Ninja can do in that world with the wingsuit. The wingsuit was just like, as soon as I saw the wingsuit, I was like, what the hell is going on with the traversal, and how are you getting around this world, and like bringing in weapons and shit? Like, yeah, Rise of the Ronin look badass. I think that would be my game of the entire day, for the direct, for state of play. I think that would be my game of the day, we'll call it. But shout out also to Fatal Frame. I know that's one that's gonna go under the radar today with all these big announcements, but keep your eye on that, because I don't think this is happening for no reason. I'm not saying that a remaster it's not up there with friggin' Project Eve or the God of War trailer, Zelda, like these big announcements today, but keep your eye on Fatal Frame. Something's going to come of that. We're going to get a new Fatal Frame game. I'm pretty sure they're not doing this just to remaster these titles. You look at like, with Saints Row and, remastering Saints Row 3, and then we get the Saints Row, the full Saints Row game soon after, or even something that wasn't all that, well, shit, Saints Row, that wasn't necessarily all that successful either with the new game, but hopefully Fatal Frame won't be in the same vein of the two games we're talking about here. But even with like Knights of the Old Republic, getting those ports and, getting those Switch releases and shit, and then Aspire gets the green light to go and develop a full Knights of the Old Republic remake. Didn't turn out too well for them, but I don't think that same fate will be had here with Fatal Frame, a much smaller overall project. But yeah, keep your eye on Fatal Frame. I think we will be seeing a new game from that franchise sometime soon, and I'm very much very much looking forward to that. So yeah, let me know what your game of the day was down below in the comments. Mine has to go to Rise of the Ronin. Shit looks so sick. But yeah, man, I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.